entire journey is about choices. I hear you talking about the choice between retaliation and reconciliation. We're always at a choice point. So the top topic today is keeping the door open. Keeping the door open. And for me, that's what this is about, is how do we respond? How do we respond to these things that show up in life that are not fair? People are not loving and kind. When, we're in pain, how do we respond? Change is a big deal. I think every single one of us will acknowledge that the world is pretty fast-paced right now, and there's so much change going on and so many opportunities to respond that responding from that knee-jerk place is really the easiest place to respond from, isn't it? It is. Taking time to respond from that place of reconciliation or thoughtfulness or that place of forgiveness, you know what? That's a practice. That is a spiritual practice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. How do we RSVP to life in a way that allows us to bring forth our best self, our most holy response to the experience? Because I don't know about you, but what I know about my life is that very few things stay the same very long. Have you noticed?
Yes.
Things just don't stay the same very long. Everything is always changing. As I was working with my talk, I thought about my grandma. She was born in 1900. 1900. And she was in her mid-90s when she died. Think about the changes that she had an opportunity to respond to. My gosh. When she was 12 years old, she rode a pony by herself to a sod house to help her grandma homestead, someplace in, I don't know, Kansas or someplace, right? I would never put a 12-year-old on a pony and send them, things change, don't they? Things change, don't they? Yeah. Think about the changes you've seen in your own lifespan. My gosh, it's stunning. And guess what? Even today, even yesterday, things we take for granted and things we think are stable aren't. Have you noticed? Relationships crumble, jobs go away, stock market crashes, bank accounts dwindle, our health fails, right? We have these shatterings, we have these joys, these great joys, we have births of new babies, we have all of it. And what I know about my life, it is a whole lot easier to respond to the good things, the things I label as good. Not so easy to respond to things that are painful or that don't go the way I want them to go. See, that's what this is all about. Responding has a lot to do with releasing, like Linda said, releasing attachment to the way we want it to go, the control over how it's supposed to show up. Because like it or not, stuff's going to change. Change, like our book that we're working with, David Rico. There are so many things that are changing in our life all the time. And some of them are just things that we have to learn how to cope with, to embrace, like it or not. And sometimes it feels like we're always struggling against whatever those changes are. Changes in technology, in one way or another. Changes in our own way of being in the world. The aging process. The aging process. Changes in our family structures. We got the funniest looking family in the whole world at my house. We got 8 people, and 7 people, sometimes 8, 9 people. We got 5 dogs, we got 8 cats, we got a rat.
Oh.
Now, see, I didn't invite all this. I did invite it. I did invite it, but I didn't anticipate it, I didn't expect it, and let me tell you, I never thought when I was this age I'd be having that kind of a lifestyle. Funny family. But guess what? It takes a lot of courage to respond to these weird things in life from a place of love and acceptance and tolerance and reconciliation and allowing them to be as they are in the present moment and not feel displaced. I could feel very displaced in my home. Most of the 4,000 square feet of my house is in somebody else's. They're living in it. I don't live in that part of the house. See, I live in my bed. I got my bed and my desk. My mother will attest to that. I got my bed and my desk. That's it. But you know what? I don't feel displaced by life. I'm not upset by these changes because I have the capacity and I work daily. It is a daily practice to find the good, the true, and the beautiful within that experience. And to look at the bigger picture. And to reach very deep within my divine self to find that part of me that knows how to respond to these changes going on all around me. And I know you have changes going on in your own lives. We've all got this stuff going on. To respond from a place of clarity, from a place of strength, from a place of wisdom, from a place of love, from a place of forgiveness, talk about slamming doors, from a place of, just allowing it all to be as it is. To find the hidden, loving dimensions of the experience within whatever's going on, whether we like it or not. And hear that. Whether we like it or not. We don't have to love everything. We don't have to love everything. But we get to choose how we respond. See? To choose to be loving, to be forgiving, to be responsive in a way that's about this healing presence. So that when I respond to all the changes that go on in life, the changes that Glenda mentioned, the shatterings and all the things that she was talking about when life is unfair, I get to choose to respond in a way that reflects heart instead of a shattered heart. That's language from Marianne Williamson's book, The Gift of Change. And as we were working with this book, The Gift of Change, it occurred to me that common ground 9 years ago was doing a book study on the gift of change before we ever became a community. Interesting. 9 years ago, the gift of change, and it's true, there is a gift of change. And you know what else? Just I digress from my talk, but Brenda reminded me, this idea of retaliation and reconciliation, that was an experience when we stepped away from our prior spiritual community. We were at a choice point. We could step away with grace, quietly, with honor, with humbleness, with dignity, with heart, with forgiveness, with allowing, with recognizing that some things are not always fair, people are not always loving and kind, all the things that David Rico teaches. And guess what? Not need to retaliate. Those of you who are here know how that worked. No retaliation. Move on. Let go. Find the good, the true, and the beautiful within the experience. Did we know how it was going to turn out? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it called us to respond from the most helpful, most loving, most positive place that we could find. And I've got to tell you something. It feels a whole lot better than being mean. It feels a whole lot better than striking out and, you know what, being right. Oh, we could have been very right, but it would have created a disaster. Choose love. Choose forgiveness. Choose to use the capacity of this incredible human mind that we have to change our mind about how we want to be in our world. To change our mind. Okay, I don't have to retaliate. I don't have to tell everybody how that really went. I can step away with grace. I can be in my life in a way that allows me to bring my divine self forward, not that other aspect of my being. To change the way we think about the stuff that goes on in our life. We all got stuff. We've all got difficult things. Every single one of us. Whether you're one of these beautiful young people in this back row here, or you're one of us that have been around for a very long time. We've got stuff. And most of the time, when we get real collapsed with our stuff, it's because we can't let it go. We're doing mental reruns with all the past junk. We let it live on and on and on, and we replay it, and then we replay it again. Pretty soon, I'll tell you what, it becomes a different story. That's a whole other talk. That's a whole other talk. We rent our mind out, like Marianne Williams says, we rent our mind out to all our grievances, to all the stuff that went wrong, all the unfairness in our life experience, all those shatterings we've experienced along the way, like our opening video, those times when people have devastated us. We run our mind out to that stuff. But we get to choose to rewire those thoughts because we are these awesome human beings with these incredible potential, mind potentials to be who we want to be, to choose how we show up in the world, to not have to collapse into that other stuff. So we have to remember what's true about our life experience. And what I know is true about my experience with that prior community, with my experience with my crazy family, with my experience with all of my experiences in life that have gotten my attention, there's one common denominator. And guess what it is? Me. Me. And guess what? The me that I want to show in those experiences and remember, see, this is the trick, we got to remember. The me that I want to have show up is the real me, the divine me, the one that's coming from the highest possible place that I can come from. Be the most loving person, the most forgiving person, the most allowing person, the most non-judgmental person, the one that is the most reconciling, as Linda's talk was focusing on. That's the me that I want to bring forth when I'm in these experiences, when I'm facing all these crazy changes and all this stuff that shows up in my life, so that I can just take my life back in peace. Now, it might look different. Looks very different now than it did a few years ago before we invited all these dogs and cats and rats and people into the house. My house looks very different than it looked then. And it's okay. And you know what? With that part of my life, I have a deep sense of peace and acceptance and allowing. Move on in peace. Don't make it a big deal. What's going on in your life that you're paying a lot of attention to right now, employment, money, relationships, what are you paying a lot of attention to right now that's taking away your peace? And how can you change the way you're responding to that so that you can take your peace back and move forward? So here we go. This is your invitation. We get to relax into the continually changing nature of our life experience. It is always going to change. The good old days are gone. The good old days are gone. Sorry, Robert. We can spend a lot of time remembering when, but it doesn't do us a lot of good because it's not going to be any different than it was, right? We can be with what is right now, relax into the fact that life is a changing, dynamic experience. Find the courage to face it. It's always going to be pretty unknown. We're never going to, see the bottom line, so to speak, while we're in process with it. So it's always going to be unknown. We are always going to have an opportunity to get angry or to be accepting and kind and loving within it. We're always going to have an opportunity to get stuck in it or to move forward in it. We're always going to have an opportunity to want it to be different than it is, or to allow it to be as it is, as the meditation said. And then we always have this essential piece. We always get to remember what's true about the experience. And what's true about every experience that each one of us has is that we're part of it. We are part of the holy energy of every experience that we have. And we get to decide what we bring forth into that. Whether we bring forth our divine self, our highest self, the one that sees from that higher perspective, or that perspective that's filled with light, as Debbie Voltur's song says, or sees from that sort of shadowy place, that dark place, that's about confusion and anger and hatred and judgment. We get to choose. We get to choose what kind of world we create for ourselves and for everybody else. And when we choose to create a loving world for ourselves, guess what happens? It trickles down, it trickles out, it vibrates into the rest of the world. And our decision to respond to life from a place of love and compassion and reconciliation makes a total difference to the planet. And that's the truth. Thank you for listening this morning.